Discover the incredible secret, a millionaire's surprising ask for a loving wife and a new home. Clara Johnson didn't believe in fairy tales, but as she stood in the bustling community center, attempting to smile through the exhaustion that had become her constant companion, the news reverberated around her like a siren call. A reclusive millionaire had emerged from the shadows of his sprawling estate, and the town buzzed with speculation. Little did she know, this millionaire was about to pull her into a whirlwind of emotional turmoil. As she helped set up booths decorated with hand-drawn apples and nostalgic signs, Clara's mind wandered to the crushing weight of her bills and her son Ethan's ever-increasing needs. Every dollar was a lifeline, pulled tighter with the tangled string of responsibilities that choked any remnants of her youthful dreams. Her classroom, filled with laughter and learning, felt like a tightrope walk, each lesson balanced delicately on the fears of one misstep leading to disaster. The thought gnawed at her. Would she ever truly offer Ethan the secure life she craved for both of them? Amidst the chatter around her, she caught sight of Jack Reynolds. With scruffy hair and an aura that whispered of isolation, he stood apart, observing rather than participating. A flicker of curiosity ignited within her. He was not the polished tycoon the town had painted him to be, but someone who seemed to carry his own heavy burdens. It intrigued her, and yet she recoiled. Could someone so enveloped in wealth understand the grit and determination it took to raise a child alone? Then he approached her, breaking the transient rhythm of her thoughts with a directness that sent a shiver down her spine. His proposition was shocking. He wanted her to help rehabilitate his family's image that had been marred by scandal. In return, he offered to renovate a dilapidated house just down the street, one that could be their own sanctuary. Clara's heart raced. How could she even consider tying herself to someone so entwined in shadows and whispers? Security for Ethan dangled like a carrot before her, even as a deep-seated unease coiled within. She struggled with the notion that the very man who could provide refuge might also carry the weight of manipulation and deceit. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. A tightness gripped her chest as Clara replayed Jack's words in her mind. The line between desire and doubt blurred like a surreal painting.
What if it is beyond doubt blurred like a surreal painting? Yet the thought of a stable home, a real kitchen for baking pastries instead of the cramped apartment kitchen where she currently struggled, tugged at her heart. Would surrendering her independence mean sacrificing her essence? The core of her being screamed against it. The weight of her past loomed large, darkening the light each of Ethan's smiles brought her. Her fingers trembled as she stared at the fabric of her situation, reminiscent of an intricate web of emotions, an impending storm gathering on the horizon, ready to engulf her. She had walked the path of alone for so long. The idea of reaching for someone who seemed lost within his own demons petrified her. What if it was a path to more pain? Clara knew she stood on the edge of a precipice, and every instinct told her to retreat. But what she desired for her son, love and stability, pulled her forward. How could she possibly navigate this? As the stars flickered to life that evening, she knew she was about to stumble into decisions that would define not just her fate, but Ethan's future. A new revelation lingered in the air, the ominous question creeping into her mind. Was this the gateway to everlasting love, or the beginning of her unraveling? Clara sat at her kitchen table, staring absently at the cracked mug where she poured her morning coffee. Steam curled up into the air, but her thoughts drifted far from the warmth of the cup. Jack's proposition haunted her, curling through her mind like the vapor. Could she really consider associating herself with a man clouded in scandal? The very foundations of her life felt fragile, her independence teetering on the edge of a decision that could either raise her to newfound heights or plummet her deeper into uncertainty. Ethan's laughter echoed through her thoughts, a sweet yet piercing distraction, serving as a constant reminder of her purpose. He needed a mother who could provide not just financially, but emotionally. Someone who would nurture his dreams just as fiercely as she fought for her own. She had always envisioned a cozy home filled with laughter and warmth, not isolation and doubt. Yet the prospect of a dilapidated house offered a flicker of what could be. Suddenly propelled by a surge of determination, Clara decided to take action. What would it take to transform her life and Ethan's? She gathered her laptop, her fingers clenching the keyboard as if it were the anchor she needed. The first step towards evaluating Jack's proposal seemed daunting, almost too simple. But sometimes clarity emerges from the chaos. She began researching the scandal that surrounded him, digging deeper into his family's history. With each article she read, a more complex picture emerged. Jack was more than just a wealthy heir consumed by family troubles. He was a person with vulnerabilities, one who had borne the burden of public scrutiny for years. Clara felt an unsettling kinship forming. They were both navigating their own labyrinth Japan. Questions stirred in her chest. Was it possible that amidst the scandal there lay the potential for healing? Could she offer him hope while he offered her stability? As the hours wore on, Clara's heart raced with newfound resolve. A plan began to crystallize in her mind. She would confront Jack, voice her concerns head-on, but also outline her expectations. She was not a pawn in his game, nor a fleeting escape from his troubles. She was a single mother with hopes and dreams of her own, someone who could contribute positively to his narrative, not merely to fix his public image. That evening, she pushed aside her doubts and reached for her phone, the device trembling slightly in her grip. She drafted a message to Jack, her mind racing with thoughts of her desires and fears. "Jack, can we talk? I have questions about the proposal and what it entails for both of us. We need to ensure this partnership is built on understanding, not just convenience." After hitting send, she felt a mixture of anxiety and liberation. Her decision to engage was a defining moment. She stood at a crossroads where clarity could replace confusion. What would his response reveal? The fear deepened, but so did determination. She realized she had to face whatever came next head-on, embracing this unpredictable possibility. It was time to let her voice be heard. She considered that this journey might not just lead to a shared home, but also toward discovering hidden aspects of herself, strengths and competencies previously buried under layers of doubt. As she lay in bed that night, a flicker of hope sparked within her. Would she find herself transformed, not just as a mother, but as an empowered woman willing to fight for her dreams? She was ready to unearth the potential she had long hidden away. Tomorrow she would take that crucial step towards confronting her fears, but she also understood the stakes had never been higher. The answers awaited her, filled with both promise and peril. No turning back now. With the dawn's light a few hours away, a thought flickered through her mind. What if Jack was not only a chaotic force in her life, but also a catalyst for her evolution? The journey she was about to embark upon promised not only confrontation, but also the potential unraveling of her own limits. This was the beginning, but what shape would it take? The morning light danced through the kitchen window, giving Clara's disheveled table an almost ethereal glow. Yet she felt anything but enchanted. Her heart hammered as she replayed her message to Jack, the implications heavy on her shoulders. She craved a change, but feared the unknown, wrestling with the excitement of possibility and the weight of her decisions. With a deep breath, she pushed herself from the table and began her morning routine, the actions mechanical yet grounding. Each brushstroke through her hair brought a momentary distraction, a flicker of self-affirmation, reminding her of the woman she once was, vibrant, hopeful, and ready to chase her dreams. Where had that version of herself gone? The question hung in the still air, a gauntlet thrown at her feet. Ethan's laughter echoing in her ears pulled her back to the present, a gentle nudge reminding her of what was truly at stake. She needed to rise, not just for her own aspirations, but for his future as well. She could mold the woman she aspired to be, and maybe her partnership with Jack could serve as the catalyst for that transformation. By mid-morning, Clara found herself in a small coffee shop, her table overlooking a bustling street. She had arrived early, nerves thrumming, and now she sat with her hands wrapped around a cup of tea, the warmth seeping through her fingers. This meeting meant more than either of them could fully understand. It was an opportunity for clarity and growth. She watched as people strolled past, absorbed in their own lives, each carrying their own tales of triumph and tribulation. When Jack entered, the air shifted. He was as striking as his reputation suggested, but Clara saw beneath his composed exterior a man burdened by expectations and clouds of scandal. Their eyes met, and she felt a rush of something unfamiliar, a mix of trepidation and an almost tangible thrum of what could become a powerful collaboration. "Thanks for meeting me," he started as he slid into the chair opposite her, his voice smooth, yet laced with an undertone of anxiety. Clara leaned forward, her resolve sharpening. "This isn't just about your proposal, Jack. It's about understanding what we both want. I'm not looking for a quick fix or a temporary solution. I need commitment, to myself and to my son." His brow furrowed, and for a moment Clara saw confusion flicker across his face. "I want to create something real, too. I wouldn't have reached out if I didn't believe we could help each other." Every word he spoke dangled in the air, ripe with potential, and Clara could feel her heart racing. "Then let's be honest," she pressed, her voice steady. "Why me? Why now?" Jack took a moment, swallowing hard, a subtle sign of his own vulnerability. "I've watched my family crumble while navigating this public scandal. I thought perhaps bringing someone into my world, a grounded person, could stabilize things. But if I'm honest, I think it could help me find my way too." As their conversation deepened, Clara felt the gradual emergence of her self-assurance. Each question raised, every vulnerability shared, peeled back layers around her heart, revealing not just the potential for partnership, but a pathway to her own evolution. After discussing boundaries and fears, Clara sensed the flow of something new brewing between them, something that could either become a great partnership or dissolve into the ether of speculation and broken dreams. Leaving the coffee shop, a mix of hope and resolve surged through Clara. She was no longer just a single mother with burdens. She was evolving into a powerful force capable of change. This was not merely a matter of cohabitation. It was a prospect of mutual growth, both personal and professional. In the midst of her quiet contemplation, her phone buzzed. She glanced down and saw a message from Jack. "I want us to build something significant. Let's consider our next steps carefully. What do you envision?" Her heart raced with anticipation, both at the enormity of his question and the potential that lay ahead. She was stepping beyond her fears, but with it came the realization that this journey would demand more of her than she had ever imagined. The stakes were high, yet Clara was ready to carve out her future. What would her answer reveal about her ambitions and deeper desires? It was a moment of truth that could redefine everything. Clara sat on the edge of her bed, the glow from her phone illuminating her resolve. Jack's message lingered in the air, its weight both exhilarating and daunting. She had spent years neglecting her ambitions, suppressing the fire within her to keep a steady rhythm for Ethan. But now, with Jack's unexpected invitation lay before her, she felt the urge to ignite that fire once more. She took a deep breath, allowing herself a moment to reflect. What did she really envision? The thought seemed simple yet complex. This was not an ordinary business venture. If she agreed to partner with Jack, it would also mean an entanglement of lives and destinies. Clara picked up her pen and opened a blank sheet in her notebook, a tool she rarely used these days, but had once filled with dreams and plans. Partnership. The word felt foreign but enticing as she wrote it at the top of the page. Underneath, she began listing her priorities. Keep Ethan's needs at the forefront. Establish a clear vision for their collaboration. Nurture her self-worth throughout the process. And, most importantly, maintain open lines of communication. Each word felt like a small victory, solidifying her growing sense of agency. Clara couldn't ignore how empowerment had felt earlier with Jack. She had faced him not as a stranger or a subordinate, but as a potential equal. They were both seeking change, battling expectations, and needing someone to share their burdens. Ere thoughts drifted to Ethan, the small house filled with toys, laughter, and warmth, yet also shadows of doubt that sometimes crept in. She envisioned a brighter future, not just for herself, but for him. "Will this partnership help us?" she murmured, testing the resonance of the question against her aspirations. With renewed clarity, she began drafting her response, feeling each word resonate with her commitment to herself and her son. "Jack," she ventured, "I think we've only scratched the surface of what we might achieve, both as business partners and as individuals seeking to redefine our paths. I want to discuss what success looks like for both of us. This isn't just about building a project, it's also about building trust and setting expectations." After a sip of her now lukewarm tea, she decided to send the message. As she pressed send, her heart raced, but she also felt a profound sense of control. She was no longer drifting, but actively sailing her course. The next day passed in a hazy blur of anticipation, until, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, her phone chimed again. Jack's response was swift and filled with eagerness. "Meet me tomorrow at the office? I think we can start shaping something remarkable." Clara's heart pounded. This was it, the moment when they would take the first tangible step into the unknown. Yet her mind whirred with thoughts about negotiation and boundaries. Was she ready to meld their visions without sacrificing her identity? That night, sleep evaded her. Clara lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, dissecting her reflections on individuality versus partnership. She feared the loss of her own voice in the din of collaboration. But was this not also an opportunity to elevate her ambitions? The tug of war between excitement and trepidation left her both unsettled and invigorated. She recognized finally this was not merely another job or side project. This was a possible transformation that would redefine her narrative, not only as a mother, but as a force in her own right. The stakes were higher than ever, yet spiritually invigorated, Clara set her alarm for the morning, determined to rise prepared. She would articulate her vision, not just for the business, but for her life. The steps she needed to traverse the delicate balance of ambition, family, and partnership. As she began to drift into a restless sleep, a startling question pierced her thoughts. What if she emerged from this endeavor as not just a collaborator, but a leader? Tomorrow would hold the answer. The choice awaited her. The moment of truth was approaching, where she would face Jack and assert her vision. Would she seize this chance to transform her life, or would she allow old fears to drown her potential? The clock was ticking down, and Clara braced herself for the challenge ahead. Morning arrived, vibrant yet charged with uncertainty. Clara dressed deliberately, carefully selecting a tailored blazer that instilled both confidence and professionalism. Each item she wore became part of her armor. The fabric brushed against her skin, a reminder that she was stepping into an arena that demanded her best self. As she caught her reflection in the mirror, she resisted the urge to second-guess herself. Today was not just about Jack or the business. It was about reclaiming her narrative. Ethan was still asleep, blissfully unaware of her inner conflict. She leaned into his room, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest, and felt a wave of determination wash over her. She knew that for every decision she made going forward, it wouldn't just affect her, it would ripple through their lives. Clara's commitment to crafting a brighter future for him fueled her resolve. He deserved a mother who lived fully, not one trapped in fear. Hours later, she stepped into Jack's sleek office, the air crackling with potential. The modern decor, all glass and steel, mirrored her ambition, but also evoked a sense of intimidation. Clara swallowed hard as she spotted Jack, who was engrossed in his laptop. His gaze lifted, and when their eyes met, a mix of apprehension and excitement sparked between them. "Clara, you made it," he said, pushing away from his desk and extending a hand. The warmth of his grip felt almost like an invitation to take these first steps together. "Thanks for having me," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She gestured toward the array of documents laid out on his conference table. "Shall we get started?" As they began discussing initial ideas, Clara felt a surge of confidence. Her insights flowed, mixing with Jack's, and for the first time she sensed the possibility of their collaboration shifting from concept to reality. They brainstormed strategies, mapped out goals, and laid down the groundwork for the project. However, as they delved deeper, a sense of unease began to creep in. Jack's ambitious nature clashed with her caution, peppering their discussion with discrepancies. "Let's aim high," Jack suggested, eyes gleaming with excitement. "If we push for aggressive growth targets, we can dominate the market." "Yes, but we must also consider sustainability," Clara countered, her voice sharper than intended. She felt a flicker of frustration with herself and with Jack. This was not merely about nailing down plans, it was about establishing boundaries. Clara reveled in the realization that she had a voice worth fighting for. She took a deep breath, letting their differences linger in the air, ready to confront the challenge head-on. "Look, Jack," Clara said, grounding herself, "I'm all in for ambitious goals, but those should be aligned with our values and not just numbers." Jack leaned back, studying her with an intensity that both unnerved and invigorated her. "What you're saying is valid." In the office, the energy was palpable. Jack greeted her with enthusiasm, but Clara immediately detected an unconscious eagerness laced with the anticipation of pushing boundaries. As they dove into revisions on their project plan, she found herself anchoring the discussions with caution, while Jack surged forward with exuberance. His relentless ambition, though inspiring, inhabited a chaotic realm that threatened to overshadow her carefully laid groundwork. "What if we introduce a new marketing strategy this quarter?" Jack suggested, eyes gleaming with excitement. "It could help us break into several untested demographics, radically expanding our reach." Clara internalized the moment and conceded to his enthusiasm. It was a radical idea. Yet the nagging voice of reason surfaced, pushing her to confront the implications of such a move. "Jack, what if we focused on reinforcing our brand loyalty first? There's strength in nurturing what we already have before we leap into unexplored territories." He faltered for a moment, taken aback by her reticent tone. "I hear you, but why hold back? We have so much potential." "Because potential alone doesn't ensure sustainability," she shot back, surprising even herself with the firmness in her tone. "I refuse to set us up for failure just out of desire for rapid expansion." The tension in the air thickened, and for an instant Clara was uncertain if she had crossed the line. But as Jack's brow furrowed, she saw the flicker of realization in his eyes, signaling that her words had struck a chord. "You're right. To grow sustainably, we need to maintain our core values. His admission created a new layer of respect between them. Encouraged by the breakthrough, yet wary of its implications, Clara meticulously laid down her expectations, establishing a framework of mutual respect intertwined with ambition. It was a landscape she could navigate and cultivate, but over the currents of vulnerability, she sensed a tidal wave of deeper feelings rising between them. As the meeting transitioned to strategic planning, Jack's demeanor changed, becoming more introspective and contemplative. Clara's focus shifted. She could feel the delicate tightrope of emotion stretching between them as they pushed through the professional facade that veiled their personal connection. When it became clear that they were not merely collaborators, but kindred spirits navigating the same storm, Clara felt her heart incredulously tugging toward Jack. Could she reconcile this growing attraction with the boundaries she vowed to uphold? The fragile balance she had nurtured hung in the balance, and the risk of emotional entanglement lurked with every shared success. Later, Clara returned home, Ethan's laughter greeting her like a warm embrace. But as she joined him in his light-hearted playfulness, doubt held her in an invisible grip. Each giggle semia hueco her internal struggle. Could she pursue her professional growth without losing herself in the complexity of a burgeoning relationship with Jack? As the evening wound down, Clara sat alone for a moment, alone with her thoughts. The duality of her existence, motherhood and ambition, pressed against each other. Jack's words about collaboration echoed in her mind. Perhaps the lines between personal and professional were not meant to be so rigid, as long as there was honesty in intention. The evening air felt charged with imminent decisions to be made. Clara resolved to navigate this new reality with intention while checking her heart's desires. But soon came the realization that denying her feelings could complicate the very progress she wished to achieve. Clarity was vital, yet the possibilities were vast. Amid the whispers of uncertainty, a message from Jack illuminated her phone. "Can we meet tomorrow? I would like to discuss a new opportunity, something transformative for both of us." Her heart raced, and the question loomed. What did he mean by transformative? With her world shifting beneath her, Clara couldn't help but wonder how the next step might redefine everything, both professionally and personally. The next chapter of her life was about to unfold, laden with possibilities she was unprepared for. Clara arrived at a cafe the next day, her heart fluttering with anticipation and anxiety alike. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of pastries, a comforting backdrop for the chaotic thoughts spiraling in her mind. This meeting felt monumental, a pivotal point where ambition and personal choice could collide catastrophically. As she scanned the room for Jack, she mentally rehearsed her intentions, hoping they wouldn't be lost amidst the rising tide of emotions. Jack walked in, exuding confidence in his tailored suit, yet this time his expression held an undercurrent of seriousness that piqued her curiosity. He approached her table, and her heart thumped louder, a warning signal to maintain her composure. "I'm glad you could make it," he began, sitting across from her. "I have something I believe could change the trajectory of this project, and maybe our partnership." Clara's mind raced.
Was he speaking about their work, or was there more to this meeting than mere professional dialogue? "I'm listening," she responded cautiously, determined not to let the tension cloud the clarity she sought. "What if we sought a merger?" Jack proposed, his voice steady yet charged with enthusiasm. "Combining our talents could create an unparalleled force in the market, and it may also allow us to cater to a wider audience, with credibility and shared resources." The prospect hung in the air, heavy with implications. Clara knew mergers could elevate their careers, but they were also fraught with danger, especially when trust and vision were at stake. What would that mean for us operationally?
Guia de estilo e instruções para síntese de fala. Você é um narrador, palestrante, com voz potente, forte e autoritária. O tom deve ser firme e inabalável. Contexto de continuidade. A frase anterior era: "What would that mean for us operationally?" Você está no meio de uma frase, pensamento. Mantenha o ritmo e a força vocal sem quebrar a conexão. Haja como se estivesse transmitindo uma verdade fundamental. Começando a frase com "She queried", insinuando. Prosody. She queried, attempting to steer the conversation toward the practical aspects. Jack leaned forward, his eyes brightening. We'd be pooling our strengths, clearly defining roles that complement instead of compete. I can handle opening the new markets, and you bring the necessary stability. He paused, gauging her reaction. Our collaboration would grow, and frankly, I believe it could attract lucrative investments. Are you sure we can navigate that complexity and preserve our integrity? Clara asked, her voice firm but edged with doubt. This isn't just business for me. It involves my brand and how it reflects on Ethan. I can't afford any slip-ups. Then we'll set rock-solid parameters, Jack asserted, the determination in his voice matching the intensity of his gaze. I'm committed to this just as much as you are. I respect what you stand for, Clara. Her pulse quickened. There was a palpable alignment between them, and it felt both exhilarating and daunting. Yet, the realization hit her with startling clarity. This wasn't merely about the merger. It was about dismantling the emotional barriers she had erected, confronting the budding attraction that had intertwined with their professional aspirations. Yes, clarity is crucial, Clara affirmed, feeling a surge of conviction. But what if we fail? What will happen to our partnership, to our personal connection? At that moment, she noticed a flicker of something vulnerable in Jack's eyes, a response to her open honesty. What if we embrace the risks? He countered gently. Isn't that where growth truly lies? If we are honest and intentional, I believe we can succeed. The air crackled with possibility, yet Clara felt a cold weight in her stomach. Could attachment jeopardize their business goals? What role would her feelings for Jack play in this endeavor? These questions wrestled for dominance, amplifying her internal struggle. As they discussed logistics, Clara couldn't shake the sensation that each word exchanged deepened their connection, the boundaries dissolving beneath the weight of ambition and attraction. A part of her relished the thought of stepping into this journey together, embracing the unknown like a potent challenge. Yet another part cautioned against moving too quickly, fearing emotional entanglements could threaten her professional integrity. In the midst of their conversation, Ethan's face floated into the forefront of Clara's thoughts. She imagined him at the center of her decisions, reminding her of the stakes involved. Would he understand her choices? Could she balance these responsibilities as the lines between personal and professional blurred under the weight of possibility? At their meeting's conclusion, Clara sensed the electric tension that bound them, a force capable of shaping their futures. "Jack," she began, hesitating only briefly, "what if we take this step together, but with clear boundaries, potential risks acknowledged?" Clear boundaries, potential risks acknowledged? Their existing strengths could be redefined. She envisioned vibrant marketing strategies that spoke to their combined potential while retaining the essence of each brand's identity. Hours passed in a blur, and she felt invigorated by the clarity crystallizing in her mind. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she outlined the test for their partnership, a project that would require both of them to step beyond their comfort zones. She intended to propose their very first collaborative campaign, showcasing the merger in real time. A calculated risk, perhaps, but one she believed would establish credibility in both the market and their working relationship. As she prepared to wrap up for the day, the weight of her choices began to sink in. This merger could elevate not only their professional standings, but also challenge her sense of self-awareness. Operating closely with Jack, the familiar thrill of their collaborative spirit mingled with anxiety around how she might manage those emotions while forging new pathways. But as she transitioned into evening, doubts crept back, relentless in their pursuit. Could she maintain that clarity amidst the chaos of merging emotions and ambitions? And what if their partnership strayed into romantic territory, disrupting the fine balance she had painstakingly curated? Determined to confront those fears directly, Clara resolved to establish personal boundaries within this burgeoning partnership, framing them in her proposal. Professionalism first, she mused. Yet what would happen when the lines began to blur? The phone rang, startling her from her reverie. It was Jack, a strategic call about the document she had prepared but had yet to share. As she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window, Clara braced herself to engage openly, ready to dictate terms not just professionally, but also personally. "Clara, are you ready to dive into this?" Jack's voice rumbled through the receiver, igniting a spark of anticipation in her chest. The opportunity loomed, thrilling yet fraught with uncertainty. The time had come to carve out her identity in a partnership intertwined with potential and peril. "Absolutely," she replied, her voice steady. "But first, we need to discuss the parameters that matter." Little did Clara know, the conversation was about to unearth revelations far deeper than she anticipated, forcing her to reckon with what it meant to trust not just Jack, but herself. Clara inhaled deeply, feeling the tension coiling in her chest as she leaned against her desk. This call with Jack was more than just casual banter. It was the moment she had been preparing for, perhaps even dreading. She could feel her heart racing, each beat reminding her of the stakes involved. "Let's start with the proposal you mentioned," Jack said, his tone brisk but inviting. Clara sensed his eagerness to dive into business, unaware of the internal whirlwind threatening to pull her under. She cleared her throat.
Você é narrador, palestrante, com voz potente, forte e autoritária. O tom deve ser firme e inabalável. Determinada, Clara dramatizou sua decisão diante dos desafios que firmemente cercavam. Não queria permitir que ninguém a atrapalhasse. She cleared her throat. I've done some thinking, she began, each word weighed down by her growing anxiety. Before we proceed, we need to establish some clear boundaries. This merger is important, and I want to make sure we keep our professional focus intact. Jack paused. The silence is stretching eagerly in the air. Just as doubt began to seed itself in her mind, he responded, I agree completely. We need to ensure our collaboration doesn't cloud our judgment or goals. Clara felt her resolve strengthen con Jack's affirmación. Right. So, I propose we kick off with a joint campaign that highlights both of our strengths while pushing us to innovate. She could hear her own voice growing steadier as she presented her ideas, layering her proposal with logic and passion. It was a chance to merge their identities without overshadowing their distinct brands. I love it, Jack replied. This could set a precedent for our working relationship. His enthusiasm ignited something within her. Yet she felt the creeping edge of a question burning in the back of her mind. How much of their partnership would be about business, and how much would it be about the unacknowledged feelings simmering just beneath the surface? As they mapped out strategies, Clara fotos Don infusem cada conceito com seu compromisso com integridade e inovação. Mas between concepts, she noticed the subtle way Jack leaned into the conversation, the slight lilt to his voice as if he were descobrindo a mesma chama que ela sentia. Isso encheria ela de formigamentos elétricos, e a tentação de adentrar mais em todos esses sentimentos era quase insuperável. Yet she pushed through that temptation. Instead, detalhou as métricas que deveriam usar para medir sucesso, enfatizando dado sobre instinto. Isso não era apenas uma conexão emocional, era uma parceria estratégica. Horas se passaram em dinâmica engajamento. Ideias transformaram-se em projetos e excitação, tornando-se palpáveis pelo seu compromisso com o futuro. Mas, ao terminar a chamada, um nó na alma em seu estômago invadiu seu senso de conquista. Para cada vitorioso passo em frente, havia uma sombra deslocando seus pensamentos. Valeria a sua colaboração inevitavelmente abrir portas para complicações que ela não estava pronta a enfrentar? Determinada a encontrar clareza, Clara draftou uma adicional seção de seu projeto. Uma guia para como eles se comunicariam e checaram um com o outro durante o processo de fusão. Um projeto assim, resolveu ela, requeria transparência, especialmente entre parceiros que não apenas poderiam construir um futuro profissional, mas também estavam navegando tempos pessoais. Os dias seguintes passaram em um túrmilo, com a mistura de trabalho e emoções ditando cada movimento. Clara passou suas noites refinando o projeto, dedicando toda a sua energia a uma execução sem falhas. Ao craftar tópicos em tópicos e preencher objetivos, começou a sentir uma hesitante senso de dono.
This wouldn't just say it about relying in Jack's influence, but sharing in the responsibility and growth that came with the partnership, embodying her strengths while inviting his. As they wrapped up their planning session, Clara felt rejuvenated. They had successfully charted a course for their venture, one she felt increasingly excited about. The weight of fear that had dominated her mornings was gradually lifting, replaced by a burgeoning confidence rooted in her sense of self-worth. Yet, deep inside, a lingering question remained. Would her growing feelings for Jack create complications in their partnership? The balance was delicate, and she recognized the vital importance of maintaining professionalism, especially in front of Ethan, her guiding star. That night, thoughts of the merging worlds enveloped her.
Watching Ethan play, she realized that every decision she made reverberated through his life. This partnership could offer them stability, but it needed to be built on trustworthy foundations. Clara would honor both herself and Ethan by demanding integrity, respect, and clarity from Jack and from the process ahead. Weeks passed, and their campaign launched with incredible success, showcasing the strengths of both partners beautifully intertwined. Clara found fulfillment in her work, leading meetings with pioneering strategies and often stepping up to present their vision. The initial nervousness of working closely with Jack faded into camaraderie as they achieved tangible results. Each milestone reinforcing not only their professional connection, but also her steadfast determination to remain true to herself. During the campaign's climax, Clara received an unexpected call from a major investor, intrigued by their vision and eager to partner. It was a validation of her hard work, and when she shared the news with Jack, they celebrated with shared laughter and relief. In that moment of triumph, the peculiar bond they had forged crystallized into something more tangible. "Clara, you've been incredibly instrumental in this project," Jack remarked, his voice filled with unguarded admiration. "I couldn't have done it without you." The sincerity in his gaze felt electric, igniting an internal struggle between reason and heart. As she returned home that night, Clara reflected on her journey. What began as doubt was now riding a wave of success. With Ethan tucked in, she allowed herself a fleeting moment of contemplation. The old Clara, the one swamped with uncertainty and indecision, had broken free. She was no longer hesitant. She had proven her competence. The following days revealed more complexity, as Jack's feelings became harder to ignore. They shared silent moments of understanding, leaning into each other's strengths. Clara began to understand that her aspirations for independence and partnership could coalesce, as long as she remained steadfast in her core values.
One evening, while mapping out their future initiatives together, Jack turned to her with a sudden intensity. "Clara, we've built something remarkable here, but I need you to understand something. I want to explore where this goes. It's not merely professional for me anymore." The air thickened with unsaid words. Clara's heart raced. They stood at the edge of something significant, yet the specter of fear loomed once again. "Jack, I appreciate that, but for the sake of Ethan, we must tread carefully. I can't afford to mix my personal and professional lives without prudence." His expression softened, signaling a commitment to respect that boundary. "I understand. We can prioritize this partnership while allowing feelings to evolve naturally. But you should know, I'm all in for both," he admitted, a blend of sincerity and vulnerability. Clara felt warmth bloom within her. A relationship founded on mutual respect and ambition was becoming clearer. She knew she would tread this path with caution, but her confidence surged. She could define this journey on her terms. Embracing her leadership, with Jack by her side, both in work and beyond, became as thrilling as it was fulfilling. Clara had achieved something profound, the ability to navigate her ambitions, sowing seeds of stability for both herself and Ethan, a vivid manifestation of her growth.
With newfound determination, she resolved that she would no longer wait for validation, but pursue knowledge, skills, and relationships that open the door to possibilities. Personal fulfillment thrived within her, and Clara Johnson stood firmly on her path toward greatness. Life thrummed vibrantly around her. The future was not just uncharted, but full of promise and potential. She was ready to embrace it fully, with Jack standing beside her as a trusted partner. This was Clara's moment, a culmination of resilience, ambition, and transformation. You need to subscribe now to not miss out on future exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your own journey of overcoming obstacles. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for content that fulfills and motivates. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below, because your insights matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and realize their own potential for growth. Don't wait even one more second to share this uplifting message.